Yeah. Take a look at gold. What came back there?
Yeah.
So I think we have Adam here.
Ah, hi Adam.
Oh,
Look,
hello. Hey, there I am.
Hi,
Hi,
Adam.
Adam.
Hi. This was a wild report. How's everyone
Wow.
doing?
Wow. I think this report, Val, I interviewed Richard Olson, the co-founder of Olanda yesterday, and he was his new platform. His main motivation is because of the lack of liquidity in the markets. Boy, do we have an example of that today, Adam, don't we?
I mean, it was instantaneous, the move down lower in the dollar, and then there's no one there to pick it up. But I mean, you try to find something positive in the report. It's negative headline, negative revision, negative wage growth, negative hours worked, and all missing. It's it's just a dismal report. And there was a lot of talk about revisions. Prior revisions were supposed to be higher. Goldman Sachs was out with a report talking about August revisions were going to be strong. They were very weak. It's just, you have to find a reason, I think, too. It's not just liquidity. But it's pretty amazing that the size of this move so far down in the dollar. I mean, you look at the Fed being dovish, not hiking, and we didn't get near this scope of move.
Does this change your view? I'm still leaning towards the camp that the euro, until it takes out 1450, could be a decent shorting opportunity in the days ahead.
I think it does a little bit. I mean, now I think it's so bad that an October Fed hike is 0% probability, and it will not rise from 0%. But the conversation even goes beyond that to thinking, well, how poorly is the U.S. economy really doing? We've seen some weakish data. It's been brushed aside, a little bit of noise in the data. ISM numbers been coming down, manufacturing numbers been coming down. And even if you look at this report, the manufacturing jobs, that's not what set it off. So there might still be more in the pipeline. That maybe the U.S. economy is getting hit from whether it be market turmoil in August or whatever is going on in China and emerging markets and commodities starting to hit the U.S. economy. And that's going to be the discussion now. Ultimately, you get this knee-jerk reaction to a dollar in the reaction in the dollar, but you're having some risk aversion as well, and that might feed back through in some other trades. Perhaps not euro dollar because we have that bond spread that is going to get beaten up here a little bit because you get treasury yields down 10 basis points. But in the commodity currencies, even and I hesitate to say sterling because it's been such a weak run in that pair, but that's one to look at.
Well, isn't like 154 just a retracement of the recent break from 6.5?
Yeah, well, you make a good point. I heard you saying that a little bit before I came on, and I mean, you could argue for it. The one thing is, I mean, we're basically down 10 days in a row in cable, and
yeah.
hate to be the guy who sells on that. But if you get it bounced today, I mean, it was up, I think, 3 pips yesterday to break the losing streak, which is nothing. It's the deadest of dead cat bounces, and now cable's bounced up here a little bit. So. It's been falling for a reason, and whatever's hitting the U.S. economy. Carney's been wrong before about rates, and he's probably going to be wrong again about hiking. Early in the new year. It's probably off the table there too. So selling cable, something to look at.
It's interesting. Martin Armstrong had an October 1st, based on his economic model for the beginning of the. This time it's going to be government, actually even calling for U.S. recession. Beginning October 1st was his turn date in the economic model.
Yeah, I mean it's early yet, but the economic data is suddenly heightened. It was a kind of will the Fed, won't the Fed hike discussion before, and I mean ultimately, if you look back at the third quarter, it didn't really matter. The dollar did well. The numbers were kind of poor, and the Fed obviously didn't hike. But what mattered were emerging markets, market volatility, China. And that, if you look back, those were really the market drivers, and the Fed was a distraction. And that probably is going to continue to be the case. I mean, the Fed is probably out now for the remainder of the year, and now it just matters, okay, which economies are doing okay. We know Japan is struggling, maybe heading to another recession. Will the Bank of Japan now start to think about easing more? I mean, you see dollar yen falling dramatically here, 130 dips or so. Maybe that continues. Or maybe we get talked if
months behind you.
they're October 30th is the BOJ meeting. Maybe they go for another round.
Yeah, boy.
Okay. So what do you expect for the next days?
Yeah, I was just thinking about writing one. You know, it's funny. I was just thinking
Like,
about
okay,
doing that.
euro dollar.
And,
I think
it's
what
been a little
you
bit
have to really
weeks
watch the
since,
treasury market. We're 194 now in U.S. 10-year yields.
I was trying to
Boons
think
at
about what I'm going to
50
say.
basis points, and you're near the lower bound on boons again. And that those are
Scrap that.
German bonds for 10 years, and so for traders who aren't into it,
well,
the compression of that
what
yield
do you hear
is
and
what
what do you
matters. So
think on gold?
investors are going to chase yield, right? So you can go to the U.S. and get almost 2%, and you can go to Germany and get half of a percentage point. So the money flows into the U.S. and in a good environment, if the U.S. is improving. Well, now those U.S. yields are coming down, so you have less of an incentive to buy the dollar. And you have a lot of carry trade built into it, so maybe they're getting squeezed for a couple of days.
I mean, it's hard
And
to
I don't see the
technicals because
impetus to rush into the euro at the moment.
You get a read on the news and which way it's going to drive.
What do you
things.
think will be the
Yeah, you're right.
effect
It is
of
a lower high.
Volkswagen's scandal? You know?
Sorry, Maurice?
Yeah, the Volkswagen, the car maker.
Oh, right.
How it could affect Europe?
I think at this point it's baked in. Obviously, it's a massive company in Europe, biggest car maker. And it's been out there now for 2 weeks. The worst is sort of feared. Obviously, the regulators will have a heyday with it, but does it change anything about German industry?
Instead of even
There's a little
talking
bit of
about Fed
prestige
hikes, we
loss,
just start
but
talking about
there's
okay,
ultimately
well, the
not that
Fed,
many cars.
or is the economy
Unless,
good?
I mean, I would probably brush it aside at this point, unless
what's the economy?
there's found to be a problem with other car
Shit
makers as
economy.
well. Then you really have almost a
Or maybe I'm
conspiracy
jumping the gun.
could undermine
It's just-
public
I mean,
trust
there have been some other
and so on and so
forth.
forth.
But car sales yesterday were
Valeria,
amazing.
do you have any question for Adam?
Actually, no, because I agree with most
Oh,
of what
definitely
he has
going way,
said.
getting even worse too.
Well,
Okay, guys, so I will. Well, first,
Th-
sorry.
th- This is the cherry in the cake for the U.S. because,
Some of those regional
as we
numbers
were
have been
discussing earlier, the main problem or the main thing holding back the Fed was low inflation, right? Because we have sort of fixed growth in employment, and with this report, there's no steady growing employment anymore. So we are in trouble here. I believe that the green market will be in trouble for a couple of weeks now.
I know,
Maybe
it's not like it
upcoming
was when
Fed
you had,
meeting will
unless the
shed
Fed's
some
talking about hiking,
relief
people are
over
worried about
traders, but
inflation. I
at
mean,
this
there's no
point,
inflation.
I don't see much of the dollar demand
It's like
surging
you
in the
get the safe
markets.
haven story, or
Especially
maybe
if
it comes
the
from emerging
October hike
markets, but
is out of the table.
it's hard
No,
to weave
well,
like
as
a
I said,
clear
goodbye
narrative in gold
2015
right now. That's
rate
where I kind
hike
of fall
for
back on the
me,
technicals.
this number.
Um,
The Fed has been
and
saying
we'll
something
go
and
up
doing
here, and
something
I
else
guess maybe the
because we
story,
have been
maybe what I
heard
write is this, like,
hearing, this
if you
week,
get
most
back
officers
above
saying, yeah, I was
1150,
hoping for a
you
rate
got
hike.
some
I was
momentum
supporting a rate
here. I mean,
hike by
this
the
is a
fact is that
big
there's
reversal
one voted
today.
in favor of a
And-
rate hike and the rest
But
voted
you gotta
against
get
them.
above 1150
Even
for it
the land
to mean anything.
saying that
It's
he
kind of
favors
a
a
wedge
rate
too,
hike,
because
but
you had
voted against it.
higher low as
So
well
I
coming
believe
off
that
of
right
September,
now
right?
they
You
have a
get back down
perfect
to
excuse to
1110
keep them on hold, you know?
and you do get it.
Right.
I wanted to ask Adam before he left, being our resident Canadian, that we had a nice little correction, breakdown in USD CAD this week after we finally got that one last push to new highs. I think we could recover, but I'm leaning towards selling retracements in USD CAD, and perhaps your view on it. You have some levels to share with us?
I really like the 132. I know we're back down touch below it again, and I almost like these levels as a spot to buy. We didn't mention seasonals. If we take a quick look, it's not a huge month for seasonals, so I'll just touch on it briefly. But it's a poor month for dollar CAD, not the poorest, it's one of the poor-ish months, but it's a very weak month again for oil. And I think whenever you get these hurricane-related spikes, I think it's an amazing opportunity to sell crude. Look at storage in the United States. Right now we're at the bottom of the year, traditionally bottoms crude oil inventories right now. and we're at the lowest we've been in a few months, but we're still above any other point in any other year for 15 years.
Draw a line,
So there's
from the
so much of
June
the
high
bottom
to
here is
August
higher
high
than
to
the old
September
highs.
high.
You know, even if that were a
Cut
chart,
through
you
that,
say 5 year.
confirmation above,
And that means sell crude.
And the weaker dollar isn't helping it today, Adam. I'm looking at the oil chart right now. It's selling off.
Yeah, it's been a rocky trade, and I think you have to be opportunistic in oil, and that I think will ultimately weigh on CAD. And in the very near future, there's an election in Canada on October 19th. Now, I always say that Western elections, any developed country elections, are overrated because there's no such thing as political gridlock in these places. And it doesn't even matter if there is for the economy, oftentimes. But there may be a little bit of jitters ahead of that because it's a very tight three-way race. And that could weigh on the Canadian dollar. And on the flip side, if you want to take out some of the risks related to emerging markets and growth and the United States, is the Australian dollar. October is the best month of the year for the Australian dollar. So that creates a bit of a skew in an odd CAD trade. If you take out 2008 over the last 15 years, 2008 was an exceptional year, and the Australian dollar got absolutely obliterated in October, same as everything else.
I thought non-farm payroll was going to be a non-story.
It averages about
I threw it out there. I was
gain.
so cocky about non-farm payroll not being anything.
So seasonally, it's a good trade for odd CAD.
And I was like, no, fuck
On
it.
the long
Everything's
side,
going to be fine
Australian
next
dollar can
week.
very badly beat
But-
up. So is the Canadian dollar. But and I think the caveat is watch the RBA, because there was a story out overnight talking about them investigating the possibility for more cuts.
David,
But there's
Goldman
also
was out
talk,
saying-
fresh talk
Goldman was
about
out saying
PBOC
that
actions
they
of
were
Chinese
driving that
central
bus.
bank cuts.
Yeah,
and that
I
could
know.
give
I
a
would
little
almost
bit
going
of
to
a
write
lift
a post
to
that
the
said,
Australian dollar
it doesn't
relative
matter.
to the
The Fed's not. Jobs
I
not
would,
solid.
if I was a
It's so
Canadian
bad.
citizen, I would write in Adam Button
even
for
if it
Prime
was,
Minister.
you get a bad headline, decent revisions,
Campaign.
and the workings were okay, but everything's
Rich,
bad.
as for finishing, Alan, I will ask you about what a summary of what happened and what will happen in your opinion for the next day, for the week ahead.
Well, that.
Okay, I mean, we got to sort through the pieces here on non-farm payrolls
fewer
and
people
see how
looking
it
for work.
shakes out. But
There's
the
one
balance
there's
so far
U6 or
is
U3 or
mediocre.
something like that, like unemployment a little bit
Again,
better,
it's sad to say that the stock market is
Completely
in charge a
disappeared.
little bit
It's
here.
great day for
Futures
zero,
really
yeah.
took a dive.
freaking out.
If that continues and extends, we're at a
How's
very
Maggie
delicate
doing?
point. If we get back below, we still have a little bit of breathing room before 1890. But if that
Oh, wow,
breaks,
this is
you have a
happening.
tremendous opportunity for yen strength. And then
for a while.
towards the end of probably
What's the
next
due
week,
date?
you start to think about the Bank of Japan, and they're not going to let
So at
dollar
the
yen,
latest,
you know,
it'll
if you
be
can
the
get around
18th, right?
118, 117.
They'll induce
They won't let it go below there. I think that's probably the best trade you might have in the week ahead. And aside from that, there's
Yeah, there's 10 days
ISM
to
non-manufacturing
the end,
next
we're talking
week. We want to see some
And
confirmation.
they probably didn't do us
soft
before then.
non-farm
to be
payrolls.
honest,
Now
but,
there are numbers
yeah.
out there that have been weak.
All right, buddy. Well, you're going to be a
but
dad.
If things start to skew
Can't wait
weaker,
to hear the
the
good
conversation
news, man.
can change
I'll be
very
praying for you,
quickly
too.
to a weak U.S.
Good health and all that.
economy.
Is your mom going to come out?
And then I like the euro dollar long side.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Thank you for coming today. Now, Valeria, could you please do a summary of what happened and what will happen in the next